Hey, I'm Joe. We're gonna disconnect the chain on a slide gate operator. Hey, I'm Joe, and I'm with Bradford Fencing. Has the power ever gone out on your automatic gate and you weren't able to get in or out? Well, we're gonna walk through how on a slide gate to open it up when the power's out. All right, so the very first step, which is imperative because you gotta be safe when you're working on or around any of these gates, is we're gonna have to disable the motor. So theoretically, things aren't working right, power's not on, the gate shouldn't open or close, but just to be safe, we gotta disable the gate, and that would be just so it's not accidentally tripped to open or close while you're working on it. So on this Max operator, right up front, you can see the gate shutoff is labeled right here. So this slides up, and then there's a jog key and alarm reset, and then there's a switch here. You're gonna turn that on. You hear that beep? That's indicating that the gate is disabled. That's not gonna allow any remotes or anything to operate the gate while you're working on it. So then first here, when we need to drop the chain, is gonna have to start on one side, which right now it's more toward the open position. This would work also if it's closed, but you're gonna wanna start on one side. And in this particular, this setup, this bolt and these nuts, this is a 3/4 inch bolt. That's a pretty common size in a lot of different operators, but you may want to check yours may be different. So I've got just an open end wrench and then a ratcheting wrench, which makes it really convenient if you do have one of those around. And so we are, again, knowing that the gate is disabled and nothing's going to move on us, we're going to go ahead and put the wrench on the right way. And I'm gonna loosen this up. I'm gonna break that. There we go. And then we're gonna, you really don't wanna move this back nut, because then when you put this back together, that's gonna show you where things were. But you're gonna just loosen this front nut all the way off. Another note is it'd probably be nice to wear gloves. I don't have any on right now, but there is a certain amount of oil on these chains. So when you touch this, your hands can get a little oily and greasy. So just a tip that gloves can be nice when you're doing this. So we're gonna pull that all the way off. And then just be aware of, that's gonna allow the gate to roll this direction, so make sure you've got that stabilized and you're not in the way. Nobody's gonna get hit. And then you wanna just lay this down. If it's dirty or muddy on the ground, you may wanna lay a cardboard or a tarp down just to keep your chain clean and out of the mud or the dirt. All right, then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna jump to the other side and do the exact same thing. All right, here, I'm gonna do the same thing. Also, I was thinking of it, we talked about doing the gate disable. The other important thing about that is that you wanna make sure that gate is turned off, that motor's turned off, because with the chain disconnected from the gate, if that motor was tripped and it tried to pull that chain through there, it's gonna get all bound up and just be a mess in those gears and potentially damage your motor. So again, I can't stress it enough just to make sure that the gate is off or disabled before you do this. And then so I'm holding this nut in place and just undoing that outside nut. Another trick is sometimes a smaller screwdriver, honestly, that would fit in that link can be used to hold this steady as you're loosening the nut. Can help with keeping that chain in place. So that chain's wanting to pull as we loosen it, so we got to pull a little tension off of it. And then get that nut on there. Just gonna put this back on the end just so we don't lose that nut. And then lower this down. So now we're free on both ends. And with this gate here, you can now just by hand manually slide it closed or slide it open, however you need to. Do be aware, especially on a slide gate, this is pretty level, so you saw when I took the chain off, it stayed in position, didn't try to slide. But if you were on any kind of slope, you would need to have somebody there giving a hand to make sure that the gate is stabilized and doesn't roll one way or the other down the slope once that chain is off, because it's free once that chain is disconnected. All right, so now the gate is moving freely, and you can see just with a little bit of pressure on this V-groove track how easily it'll roll closed or open. So in most cases, this is probably gonna be if the gate is closed and you need to get it open to get in or out. So that's how you would get to manual operation. And now let's look at when you need to put your chain back on, how that's gonna happen. All right, so let's get the chain back on. I will note, when we did this gate was more toward the open position. You could do this at any position, whether it was halfway closed, halfway open, or even in the closed position. But when you start to put your gate back on, or the chain back on, then you're gonna take it, I'm gonna take that outside nut back off. We just put that on there not to lose it. And then you do need to make sure you position your gate back to where it was when the chain was on. So as we talked, you don't really want to move this. I'm using this where this was as a guide to where that chain was. So that there, if I'm pulling the tension out of that, then I can see that was where the gate was originally. So I'm just gonna start it there. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you can get the nut started. You can pull some tension on this gate to move it back or forth, especially for this first one. So I'm gonna tighten it back all the way back to that nut where it was, and then I'm gonna take my wrenches and make sure that it's good and tight. You also want to make sure, see this chain is kind of cockeyed this way, so I actually want to take a little bit of pressure off of that and make sure that this is aligned perfectly up and down. That keeps that chain straight. And yeah, once you got your bolt straight in line with that chain, you want to just do your final tightening. Just note that as you tighten these bolts, it may try to twist this bolt, and you want to keep that straight. So you may have to do a little bit of tightening on one side and tightening on the other in order to keep that bolt straight and in line and not getting cocked one way or the other. So we've got this one on and tight, and so we can move on to the other side and put it back on, and we'll be good to go. All right, here on this side, we've got that other one done, and you can see this is the short end of the chain. See, it's a little bit short there, but you can actually push against the gate and use it as some leverage and push up against to where that other one is. Put your bolt in. Again, we're using this. We didn't move this back nut, so we know we're trying to hit this point. So I'm just hand tightening that. And then like we did on the back, I'm gonna adjust this bolt to be straight up and down so the chain is in line and not cocked. And then tighten this. And I'm putting pressure on both sides a little bit so that it doesn't twist that bolt. And then make sure that's good and tight and secure. All right, so once we got the chain back on, tightened, and all in place, you can see now on the short side, it's gonna be pretty taut, which is what you want. On the longer side, it's got just a little bit of a droop, but still pretty tight, and that is what you're looking for. You don't want to over tighten the chain, but you also don't want a real big dip, because that can cause some jerks and pulls whenever the chain's running through the motor, and that ultimately can cause a break in the chain. So you just want to watch the tightness of your chain and make sure it's at a good spot. Then now we're ready to enable the gate, turn that back on. So I'm going to flip that switch, and we should be back operational. And here I can test it, and there we go. Okay, so with your operator, you'll get a key for this front panel. This is just a front access panel to the control board. You can see it's got a LED display that's got the model number and a serial number, but that's the way it should work in normal operation. This readout will tell you error code sometimes, like if you've got, see, I just covered up the sensor and it says unsafe to open because I've got that sensor block. So it'll give you some information there. You wouldn't typically want to get in here on a normal basis, and if there was any major adjustments that need to be made, you'd want to have a technician do that. But there is the option to be able to monitor this and if you see this open, stop, close button, if you were in a pinch and needed to open it up, didn't have your remote or something, as long as there's still battery power, you can use this to open the gate. Or conversely, you can stop and you can close it as well. So not a everyday, not even a every week, every month thing that you would want to be getting in here, but you can access this with your key for the front panel to access this and use those buttons in a pinch. Then also, along with that, we talked a little bit about the gate disable switch, but here you have a gate jog key. So this is an override key. Again, not something you would want to be using on a normal basis, but this key goes in right here. And this would be in the case that maybe the step before you're trying to drop the chain, but say something happened, the gate's not working right, but you got enough power in the batteries and you need to get it open or closed. So you can turn this key this way to open it. And you can see it's just very slowly open it. It only moves if I have pressure on the key. As long as I take my hand off the key, it stops, and then you can turn it the other way. If I can get my hand in there to go the other direction. So those are just some measures that allow you to operate the gate, get in or out in cases that normal operation isn't working for your convenience. I know those can be inconvenient times when you've got to manually open or close the gate. As long as you follow that, then it's that easy to open and close your gate manually. Hey guys, thanks for checking out this fence with us today. I hope that was helpful. Make sure and like this video, that helps us out a ton, and then subscribe to the channel for more fences just like this.